I grew up in Goa in a fishing village and went to high school in the eucalyptus-covered hills of Kodaikanal in rural South India. And while the mountain air and the sea salt provided for a most idyllic childhood, Columbia University in the city of New York seemed like the glorious antithesis to everything I'd ever known. And on the 16-hour plane ride here from India, I was filled with a sense of anticipation. I could sense that my life was going to change, but I had no way of knowing at that time exactly how. Because both literally and figuratively, I was going to a place I had never been to before. I could not have imagined then that with every day I spent here, with every subway ticket, with every trip to the Met, with every writer or hipster or investment banker I bumped into, with every bagel, with every coffee, New York City would become a part of who I am. I couldn't have imagined that with every class I went to, every student I got to know, every book I read, every teacher I got to know, being at Columbia would redefine my every perspective. If there's one thing I've learned at Columbia, it's that sometimes it's okay not to know with certainty what lies ahead before you proceed. Because life is full of unexpected surprises, and because more often than not, you have to go halfway around the world before you can make sense of where you came from. I'd like to thank the John Jay Scholars and really everyone who is here tonight for making so much possible for me, for all of us. And I'd like to thank everybody who contributes to this program for bringing so much to the student experience at Columbia. Thank you. We are so grateful.
If you want to understand the quality of the educational experience that's offered by a particular college or university, one question you should ask is what kind of people does it send out into the world to take positions of leadership and responsibility? And we're here tonight to celebrate 5 of Columbia College's most accomplished alumni who allow us to answer that question in the best way possible. For their achievements richly reaffirm the value of everything that Columbia College stands for. And so to Kenneth Ofori-Atta, to Andrew Barth, to Elizabeth Rubin, to Alexander Navab, and Michael Oren, let me extend my congratulations on receiving the 2011 John Jay Award.
I want to begin by reading a letter from Robert Kraft. He asked that I do this, and then I just have very few remarks. I'm sorry that I can't be with you at the John Jay Awards dinner to help honor my good friend, Ambassador Michael Oren. Only very pressing business keeps me away. There's something very fitting about Michael receiving the John Jay Award. Both Michael Oren and John Jay served their country in critical diplomatic roles, representing their country in sensitive foreign capitals at a time of crisis. It is a privilege to know Michael, to call him a friend, and to see him honored by my alma mater. Sincerely, Robert Kraft.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Outing, and I'm a senior John Jay Scholar from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm a dance and creative writing major. I am honored to introduce Andrew Barth. You are a native New Yorker born in Queens. At the college, you majored in economics and graduated summa cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa. You were named an All-Ivy wrestler and continued to live your passion by competing for the New York Athletic Club, achieving state, regional, and international honors in Greco-Roman wrestling. In 1985, you earned your MBA from the business school. You have spent your entire professional career at the Capital Group, beginning as a financial analyst covering automotive and financial companies with Capital Guardian Research. You have risen through a series of executive and investment roles during the past 2 decades to become the chairman of the Capital Guardian Trust Company and Capital International Limited. You have been an important contributor to the growth of the Capital Group from $25 billion in assets under management in 1985 to $1.2 trillion today. You are an active member of your community and a dedicated public servant. You were twice elected to the Board of Governors of the San Marino Unified School District and served 3 years as president. You worked to put in place the foundation that has earned San Marino the highest academic performance index ranking of all unified school districts in the state of California for 7 consecutive school years. You have been a trustee or overseer of the American Ballet Theater, the California Science Center Foundation, the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress, Pomona College, and the Huntington Museum, Library, and Gardens, as well as the Business School. After endowing the head wrestling coach position at Columbia, you said, "Wrestling taught me many valuable lessons about life. Some of the best times in my life and some of the best memories are due to wrestling and being a part of this team. Columbia was a wonderful experience, and I received a great education." You are a thoughtful and caring husband to your wife, Avery, and your loving father to your 4 children. In recognition of your work as a financier, Columbia College is proud to present to you a 2011 John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement.
Thank you, Alicia. Well, I was told that in preparing this speech tonight, I should talk a little bit about something about Columbia. Keep it short, see if you can make them laugh. So, this is an award for professional achievement, and I have to say that I really don't think that any professional achievement that I would have gotten would have been possible without Columbia. I have been fortunate, and that should really read lucky, in every aspect of my life regarding Columbia. That applies to my family also, as my late father and my sister also earned degrees from Columbia. My dad, a Master of Science from the Business School, and my sister, a degree from the School of Journalism. Interestingly, it was our late mom who was a most enthusiastic supporter of attending Columbia. I'm not sure why my mom felt so strongly about Columbia. As an immigrant, she had no natural connection to Columbia or New York. I used to think she liked Columbia because it was close to our home on the Upper West Side and she could keep an eye on me. Today, I think that was only partly the case. As I came to know my mom better and I began to understand how deeply she loved New York, I realized it might have been as simple as the fact that Columbia is the best university in the greatest city in the world. To which my mom would have very quickly added, "Why would you want to go anywhere else?" My good fortune at Columbia extended through athletics, college, graduate school, and my job search. But I only have enough time to share a couple of glimpses. I came to Columbia and I walked onto a wrestling team that was about to win 3 Ivy League championships. My hard work, good attitude, and financial advice earned me the pity of the coaching staff, who mercifully let me stay. How lucky I was became clear to me at one point in my sophomore year. Coach Russo, ever the diplomat, must have felt confident enough of my improvement that he shared with a group of alumni that when Barth entered the room last year, he was our 33rd best wrestler. Coach would then add that there were only 31 wrestlers in the room. I felt slightly redeemed when I had the opportunity to contribute to those 3 championships. And you don't have any, Michelle doesn't have anything heavy, do you? Twice with victories over Cornell. My good luck continued when I applied to graduate schools and received a merit fellowship to Columbia Business School, I firmly believe that that fellowship was influenced by my attending Columbia College. It came at a crucial financial time for my family, and it clinched my decision to stay at Columbia. Through my classes at the business school, I found the investment management business, and it was the dean of placement who helped me find the Capital Group in Los Angeles. Now, my view of the world at that time was that famous New Yorker cover that basically showed the distance from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue was the same as the distance from New Jersey to Los Angeles. Moving to Los Angeles was not on my radar screen. But a portfolio manager from Capital, preparing to interview at Columbia, asked the dean of placement, Fred Way, I know you have a lot of hard-charging, rocket scientist, world beater, master of the universe types here at Columbia, but do you have any that are kind of normal? Dean Way responded, the most normal guy, relative standard, the most normal guy we have here, and he wants to be in your business, is Andy Barth. And 26 years later, I'm still at the Capital Group. We get to make many choices in life, but only a few are really, really critical. Where you go to college, what career you choose, where you work, who you marry. I have been unbelievably lucky with all of those. On the first three, Columbia played an inextricable role. On the last, all who know her still must wonder why my sweet wife chose to marry me. Again, inexplicable good fortune. Columbia was very good to me at a time when New York was a much scarier place and when, frankly, Columbia was not in as good shape. Today, Columbia is a better school, in better shape, with greater potential. I cannot help but want to be a part of this school's bright future. I want to thank you for this honor tonight.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alexander Mole. I'm a senior John Jay Scholar from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm majoring in mathematics. Tonight is an honor to present to you Kenneth Ofori-Atta. After leaving the Achimota School in Ghana, you attended Columbia College and graduated with a bachelor's in economics. As a student, you were a varsity athlete, lettering in track and field. After starting your career at Morgan Stanley, you attended the Yale School of Management. And like many new MBAs, you continued on to Wall Street and worked with Salomon Brothers. But you wanted to return home. In 1990, you started DataBank Financial Services Limited with $25,000. And today, it is the leading investment banking firm in Ghana. The company has offices in Gambia and Liberia, also manages a very successful Pan-African equity mutual fund called EPAC, which started with 5 investors and now has more than 80,000. You were named the first African Fellow of the Aspen Institute's Henry Crown Leadership Program in 2000, and are co-founder of the African Leadership Initiative, and you were honored as a Global Leader of Tomorrow by the World Economic Forum of Davos. In both 2007 and 2009, you were presented the PricewaterhouseCoopers Ghana Most Respected CEO Award, second place. In 2010, you were made a Donaldson Fellow by the Yale School of Management. You're here tonight because you have a strong interest in education and serve on the boards of a number of universities in Ghana. You're also a member of Yale's President's Council on International Activities. You once said, if I may quote you, that my education has been life-changing in my search to move from success to significance in my society with values-based orientation. And this has been your guiding mantra since you're returning home to your home nation of Ghana. You're a devout Christian and a loving husband to Angela, and an involved and thoughtful parent to your 3 children. In recognition of your work in building the investment banking industry in Ghana, and your commitment to a new generation of African leaders and entrepreneurs, Columbia College is pleased to honor you with the 2011 John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you all. It's really a great honor to be here, and very, very surprised when I got the call. But in things like this, somebody must have thought of you, and I'd like to thank Evans Kisi and Dean Laheka, who was one of the deans when I was in college in '84, for their continual interest in the work that I've been doing. So just imagine in 1980, some 30 years ago, when I landed from Accra into New York City. All 110 pounds or 100 pounds of an African boy in the middle of New York. Just after I got in, like all African countries, there was a coup d'etat in Ghana. So clearly there was no money going to be coming in. And fortunately, Dean Collery was my faculty advisor. And he just called me in and said, well, we can't let you go back home. Let's do something about this. So in true Columbia spirit, he was able to put a scholarship together, and I was able to complete the 4 years. But that was not all. He also had what I call a core group of expert messengers and photocopy experts who were in the basement of Hamilton Hall. And that was a group of us, including a number of Pakistanis and Indians. And this is where we spend our time with a lady called Heather Paul, who just were great to us. So Heather and Donna Badrick, who were in the dean's office, all just created this bubble of a wonderful New York family, which made Columbia truly, truly memorable. So through 4 years of being in track of chaining ourselves to the doors of Low Library as we fought for Columbia to divest from South Africa, all of those things beginning to train us and push what we learned in humanities and CC to bring our thoughts and ideas into action and to fight for things that we believed were right to do. Fortunately for me, I was looking to become an academic, but Reagan was ruling, Wall Street was back up, and they swarmed campus, and we all got recruited to go to Wall Street. And this is what has become of me. So that is what Columbia did for me. I was then able to pay for my way through Yale and came back to Wall Street. But after a decade in America, I decided, maybe naively, to go back. But I think what really helped was the foundations of our core curriculum, which enables you to think outside of the box, to challenge sort of the prevailing orthodoxy, and to think about what this life is all about, what is the purpose. And so I took the chance to do that. But the honest truth is that I had just met a lovely woman called Angela, who was doing her PhD in clinical psychology in Vancouver. And when I raised this silly idea of going back home to do something related to the stock market, she sort of laughed about it, but decided, well, I'll join you in this crazy episode. But I think what is another thing that Columbia gave me was that, in meeting Angela, she was in Vancouver, I was in New York, and we spoke on the phone for about 6 months before actually meeting. And one falls in love with somebody's mind, and there's no going back. And that's the beauty of what the contemporary civilization humanities can do for you, where the intellectual dialogue becomes maybe more satiating what else you might think. So that's what led me back to Ghana. And it has been wonderful being back to the courage that this education gives you, the sense of limitlessness and capacity to do all that you put your mind to, because anything can be learned if one is committed to it. So from St. Augustine's, which we all read, to Dante, you can find something in Ghana that will give you a reason for being there. How do you change the society in your own way? How do you become a bridge? How do you build confidence? The private sector, as opposed to politics, is a way in which money could be made. And by the way, I left America still owing Colombia quite a bit on loans, which I had defaulted for a few years. But amazingly, in Africa is where one made enough money to then come and pay back fully. So I thank you for your patience in deferring that, but it all has been fully paid. So for me, Colombia is, a lifelong experience. It's just an awful lot of respect to move 6,000 miles away to find a real family. In the 4 years that I was here, with a continuing relationship up to this day, and we shall continue and feel really privileged to be a part of this family. And in speaking to Ken, I guess we also realized that this is the first time that the John Jay Fellowship is being given to an African, and I think it's a wonderful time for that to happen. So I thank you for your courage, the same courage in which President Sovereign at that time decided to divest Colombia's investments from South Africa. The same courage that we have taken to do this for an African. And I gather that we are setting up an office in Nairobi. So we are getting closer and closer. And Africa truly is the next frontier, and Colombia should be in the lead in bringing this into the Committee of States. So once again, great appreciation for what you have done, and thank you to my family, to Angie, and all of you for being here, to Roger, and Donna, and Evans, and John. John was one of my roommates, and as an African, you have a concept of what wealth is. And John always had these tattered clothes until one day at midterm he said, well, can I help him carry his things because his father is picking him up? So I get to the gates of Colombia, and there's a limo. I'm like, John, where are you going? And the driver jumps out, and, John goes, like, wow. So it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, John.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Warren McGee. I am a senior John Jay Scholar, and originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I am a pre-medical student majoring in biochemistry. And I'm pleased to introduce Elizabeth Rubin. So you were part of a Columbia College family. Your father, Harvey, past president of the Alumni Association, is class of 1954, and your brother, Jamie, class of 1982, is a past John Jay recipient. Following your graduation from the college, you matriculated at Oxford. You started your career as a theater reviewer at the Vineyard Gazette, and then became the deputy cultural editor at The Forward, which sent you to Sarajevo for a 6-week stint in 1994 that kept you returning to the Balkans for nearly 2 years. From 1995 to 2003, you were an independent journalist, writing from conflict zones around the world, including the Middle East, Central and South Asia, Russia and the Caucasus, Africa and the Balkans. During your decade and a half as a war correspondent, you have vividly described the concerns and costs of being a soldier, a parent, and a bystander in lands torn apart by war. Your work has earned the highest accolades in publishing. Most recently, from 2008 to 2009, you received the Edward R. Murrow Press Fellowship, giving you 9 months of uninterrupted writing at the Council of Foreign Relations. From 2001 to 2004, you covered the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq for the New Republic, the New York Times Magazine, and the Atlantic Monthly. In 2003, you were named a contributing writer to the New York Times Magazine. You also continue to contribute to other well-known publications, including Time and National Geographic. You're a loving mother and a role model for your daughter. In recognition of your extraordinary reporting from international war zones, Columbia College is honored to present to you a 2011 John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This is an incredible honor, and not one that I ever expected. I was a freshman in Ann Arbor, actually, at the University of Michigan, where President Bollinger was as well, when I got a call from my father saying, guess what? Columbia is accepting women. And I have to admit, I was kind of happy in the basement where I was with my pots. Throwing pots, not pottery. Sorry. But nevertheless, I was intrigued by the idea of Columbia, and we all have those pulls towards tribalism, and as the introduction said, my mother and father met at Columbia in the 50s. 60 years ago. My 2 brothers went to Columbia, and so I was intrigued. And I had no idea, of course, when I arrived at Columbia, how it would transform my life. It turned out, though, that New York was a great place to study in those years. Some of you may remember the 80s. A few days before I moved in, a guy was murdered in my lobby. A few months later, a bunch of freshmen found a really beautiful carpet in the dumpster on my block. They got back to the dorm, unfurled it, and there was a dead body inside. Seriously. Now, I had no idea at the time that Morningside Heights was going to turn out to be the perfect boot camp for reporting in war zones, but in fact it was. But more seriously, as every one of you here probably knows, the core curriculum, Plato, Socrates, Hobbes, Marx, Freud, and the professors who brought them to life, really shaped how we all see and question the world, and brought with them a vital set of values. Respect people, their experience and their knowledge, but also harbor a very healthy suspicion for power and have a lot of chutzpah. And that definitely helped me in the years that would follow. I don't know how many of you were lucky enough to know or study with the very eccentric Seymour Melman. He was at the School of International Relations. He taught approaches to world order. But his daily reminders have stayed with me until this day. The world order, he told us, he had insane gray hair that went all over the place. He was a sort of Socratic teacher. He called on you when you were unprepared. He yelled at you. But every single day he said, the world order is man-made, not divine. So question everything and then try to change it. He also said to read the newspaper every day. And unfortunately, I forgot to listen to him. I never read the newspaper. And again, Columbia gives these strange gifts. I thought I was going to be in the theater, and so I didn't need newspapers or really to know what was going on in the world. But then I decided I needed a real job, and I came back to Columbia, and I went to the Spectator, which I'd never read as an undergraduate, and sort of raised my hand as if I was, still involved, and said, could I write a few things, and I did. And that was what launched me on my journalism career, to be honest. But throughout that career, there was one person whose teaching I hope many of you here had a chance to experience, and that was Professor Edward Taylor, whose year-long, I'm very happy to hear that, whose year-long Shakespeare class was usually standing room only and epic. Yes, he was funny and a genius and totally bawdy, but more important, he instilled Shakespeare in us as a way to understand the world and the human condition. Students would come out of his classroom stunned into silence. One winter, not that long ago, I spent several days in the Arg Palace in Kabul in Afghanistan with President Karzai, and I had to write a long profile of him for the New York Times Magazine. He was moody and mad and charming and slightly out of it, and at times angry. And I just didn't know how I was going to nail this portrait. But it was Taylor's class that did it for me, and I realized that Karzai thought he was Henry V. But in fact, he was Hamlet. So I must say that I often think of that phone call from my father, who gave me the idea to apply to transfer to Columbia. It was a decision that helped make me who I am, and I want to thank the college for honoring me today, and my family for all their support on this very, what should I say, not always easy career path for a family to follow. So thank you very, very much.
Good evening. My name is Vasal Yazdi, a senior John Jay Scholar from Adelaide, Australia. I'm an economics major. Tonight, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Alex Navab. You were born and raised in Iran, where you lived with your family until the Iranian Revolution began. Eventually, your family settled in New York, and you attended Phillips Academy before entering the college. At Columbia, you were part of student council and served as president during your senior year. A member of the varsity crew team, you were named captain in your final year. You graduated Phi Beta Kappa with a degree in history and Middle East and Asian languages and cultures. You worked at Goldman Sachs before going to Harvard Business School, where you excelled. You subsequently spent a few more formative years in New York working for James D. Wolfenson, before joining Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts in 1993. In your 18 years at KKR, your roles and responsibilities have grown and expanded along with the company. You have been instrumental in its growth, leading a number of the firm's recent transactions, including the $12 billion acquisition of the Nielsen Company and the $4.3 billion acquisition of Pan Am Sat. Today, you are the co-head of North American Private Equity, a member of the firm's management and private equity investment committees. As noted by a long-term partner, you're a true thought leader in the private equity industry and set the standard for what it means to be a person of honor and integrity in every respect. You are an active member of your community, having served as a national co-chairman of Improving Nonprofits for Children, and currently as the Leadership Council member of the Robin Hood Foundation. Your commitment to education is evidenced by your important work on the Columbia College Board of Visitors and your involvement at Harvard Business School. You are a loving and thoughtful husband to your wife, Mary Catherine, and an involved and caring father to your 2 children. In recognition of academic achievement, 3 children. 3 children, pardon me. There you go. In recognition of academic achievement, your work in private equity and asset management, and in your community, we are proud to award you the 2011 Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement.
That was wonderful. Thank you for that very kind introduction. This is really an incredible honor from an institution that I admire and care for so much and has meant so much to me over the years. Honestly, as I try to gather my thoughts today on a flight over from Europe, I must say I was repeatedly overwhelmed by emotion. So forgive me if I get a little choked up tonight. I could never imagine a little over 30 years ago, when our family left Iran during the Islamic Revolution under extreme uncertainty, that someday I'd be standing here among so many friends, family, colleagues, partners, receiving such an award. It's truly a privilege, and I'm humbled by the tremendous generosity from everybody in this room. And we couldn't be here tonight without all the support and generosity of this group. And I'm touched. Thank you. Let me first thank Columbia for bestowing such an honor. I'm proud to be a Columbia graduate and grateful for the memorable and impactful years I had in the college. I also want to congratulate all of the other award recipients. What an impressive group of individuals, and what an extraordinary set of accomplishments. It's really a privilege and an honor to be here with them tonight, standing in front of you. And I want to thank my dinner co-chairs, Mark Lipschultz, Henry Kravis, and Yale Furgang, for bringing so many people to tonight and for their support and the contributions that they were able to get for this very, very worthy event and very, very worthy scholarship. Columbia was truly an exceptional experience for me, both inside and outside the classroom. The school not only took a chance on me, but fully embraced me. I was a lucky recipient of significant financial aid and support. The famous core curriculum, the centerpiece of the Columbia College education, not only exposed me to the great works in literature and humanities, but demanded us to learn how to think, to debate ideas, and to push ourselves to expand our horizons. At Columbia, I developed that zest for learning and thinking broadly. I was also energized to explore other passions I had, the opportunity to get actively involved in the student government, representing my peers, and as part of the varsity crew team for 4 years, pushing ourselves as a team to our limits. All of these experiences were truly transformational and gave me the foundation for all of the future endeavors in my life. The combination of this comprehensive college experience that Columbia provides and its location here in the city of New York makes this a truly unique experience. Let me conclude by saying a few special thanks to a few people who have made an incredible impact on my life. I'm privileged to have my mother and father here tonight. Thank you for having the courage Thank you for having the courage, the fortitude, the vision to leave everything you had built in Iran behind after the revolution for the safety and the future of your children. You made great personal sacrifices and tirelessly supported your children and instilled strong values in us as we began a new life and a new journey in this wonderful country. I can't thank you enough. I wouldn't be standing here tonight without you. I want to thank my incredible wife, Mary Catherine, who's not only the love of my life, but a true partner in every respect and in every way. I share this honor and this award with you tonight, and I thank you for your tremendous love, friendship, partnership, and enormous support that you've given me throughout our time. And finally, I can't imagine standing here celebrating professional achievements without including and thanking all of my partners and colleagues at KKR. There are so many of you over here tonight. I'd like you all to stand, please, because I want to share Don't be shy, you can get up. The firm was founded over 35 years ago by Henry Kravis and George Roberts, true pioneers in the private equity industry. And together with the help of all of my partners and colleagues who are here tonight and many who are not here tonight, we built a very, very special firm. I'm very proud to be your partner. I'm very proud to be your colleague. And I share this very, very significant award with all of you tonight. Thank you all very much.
Good evening. My name is Francesca Trianni. I'm a senior John Jay Scholar from Modena, Italy. I'm a political science major, and it is my privilege to introduce Ambassador Michael Oren. You were born and raised in the tri-state area and matriculated at Columbia College, where you majored in Middle East studies. You stayed at Columbia and earned a master's in international affairs. As an undergraduate, you began to learn Arabic, and your fluency in the language has helped and strengthened your scholarship and diplomacy work in the Middle East. You spent a year as an advisor to the Israeli delegation to the United Nations before moving to Israel, where you lived before returning to earn a PhD in Princeton. Your experience with the Middle East was not simply theoretical. Your military experience gave you a first-hand look at the difficulties and subtleties of many of the conflicts. In 1979, you joined the Israel Defense Force as a paratrooper, where you fought in the 1982 Lebanon War. In the 1991 Gulf War, you were the Israeli liaison to the U.S. Sixth Fleet, and you served as an Army spokesman and media relations officer during later conflicts. Your work as a scholar has won significant recognition. You have been a visiting professor at prestigious universities in the United States and in Israel. Your two most recent books were both New York Times bestsellers, and your books have won critical acclaim and numerous awards. You have also written extensively for the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the New Republic, where you were a contributing editor. In 2009, you were appointed as the ambassador of Israel to the United States by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Your ability to carefully negotiate and diplomatically explain Israel's position to Washington, D.C. has been one of your greatest assets. You're a loving husband to your wife, Sally, and a devoted father to your 3 children. In recognition of your diplomatic work, your role as an accomplished author and historian, Columbia College is pleased to present you with the 2011 John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement.
You did it. It wasn't so bad, right? Thank you so much. Over here, let me put this thing. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Thank you, President Bollinger, Dean Moody Adams. Thank you very much to my distinguished and esteemed honorees, fellow honorees. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Robert Kraft for those warm words. You know, as an ambassador, I have to be scrupulously nonpartisan on domestic American issues. So I will not tell you how disappointed I was that the Patriots did not make the Super Bowl this year. Yay. But I must say that Robert Kraft is an unflagging supporter of the State of Israel and a devoted supporter of Columbia University. And Robert Kraft, in my mind, is always a perennial winner. When I was 15 years old, I experienced 2 revelations. I was raised in New Jersey. I was a member of a Zionist youth movement. And the greatest moment of our Zionist youth movement year was when the paper fell off the podium, was going to Washington, D.C. to have a meeting with Israel's ambassador to the United States. And he walked into this flea-bitten hotel where we were meeting, and we stood on our chairs and we applauded till our hands were numb, and we sang, and his name was Yitzhak Rabin. And I remember thinking to myself at 15, that is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to do what he does. It was also at 15 that I read a book. I was reading the Beat Generation writers at the time. I was reading Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. And I read another book by then editor of Commentary magazine named Norman Podhoretz. The book had the unabashed title of Making It. And it told the story of a young kid from a poor family in New York who came to Columbia and studied English literature with the immortal literary critic Lionel Trilling. And I so admired Podhoretz's success in combining literature with public comment and discourse, and I thought to myself, that is what I want to be when I grow up. And at that point, I realized that I was going to move to Israel, and I was going to follow in Norman's footsteps and go to Columbia College. That's what I wanted. So I was going to attend this college of my dreams. It was also the college of Ginsberg and Kerouac, keep in mind. And I would write and let my thoughts be known through my writing. Now, starting at age 15, I started working at odd jobs, shoveling snow, mowing lawns, washing windows, earning money with this crazy notion that I should go to Israel and work for free on a kibbutz. And then when I came back, almost every week I would get on a bus from my hometown in New Jersey and come into New York and go to the Columbia campus, just to get the feel of it, just to be there. And I learned that campus by heart. I met with professors. I drove the admissions officers crazy with my argument that in spite of my less than spectacular grades in math, that I should be admitted to the class of 1977. And later, I did move to Israel. I served in its defense forces, and I went to work for the prime minister, who at that time's name was Yitzhak Rabin. And after receiving enough rejection notices to fill a Manhattan phone book, I later became a writer and a public commentator, a contributor to various journals, including Commentary. I worked for Norman Podhoretz. And yes, eventually I did become an ambassador. But none of that would have been possible had I not realized that first dream. I finally wore down those admissions officers, and I was accepted to Columbia. Now, we've heard a lot about New York in the 1970s, what a dangerous place it was. It was a dangerous place. But Columbia campus of that period was an effervescent and exhilarating place. Trilling was still a campus presence, as was Jacques Barzun and Salo Baron. If you got up early enough in the morning, you could watch ambling across campus with her signal cape and cane, the great anthropologist Margaret Mead. Morningside Heights was still reeling from the campus demonstrations of the late 60s, from racial tensions. The country was still at war, and many of us of my class remember and revere Doc Deming, the patron saint of Carmen Hall, who had served as a combat medic in Vietnam. My classmates were extraordinary. I'm deeply touched. The three of my classmates, Brent and Tom and Jay, came to join me here tonight. They surprised me. Thank you. My roommates, with whom I'm still very much in close touch, David Friend, now the executive director of WCBS News, and David Rothkopf, perhaps the most quoted political commentator in Washington today, David Rothkopf, my roommate. I rode on the crew in the belief that stroking up the freezing, stinking East River in February would somehow prepare me for the Israeli paratroopers. It didn't. I directed WKCR News in the belief that it would prepare me for dealing with the Western press. It didn't. And I studied hard. I studied excruciatingly hard. But I'll never forget my first day in humanities class when in walked my instructor, George Hullock, from the French Literary Department. He walked in, didn't say a word. He walked up to the blackboard, wrote on the board, "What is the nature of reality?" And then with a filterless cigarette dangling out of the corner of his mouth, you could do that in college back then, he turned around to the class and said, that is the essence of all human thought. My first day in class, Columbia University. And it was George Hullock who taught me my most precious lesson, I think that any educator can teach to any student. He taught me how to read a book. He taught me how to read a book critically, insightfully, how to read a book as dialogue with the author of that book. And I was blessed. there was no other word for it. I was blessed. I was blessed with outstanding and committed teachers. Wallace Gray, David Shapiro, J.C. Hurwitz, and the incomparable Ludwig Selig, and great deans, Peter Pouncey, Michael Rosenthal. They were always available, always generous with their time, and generous with their hearts. Later, as a visiting professor at several leading universities in America, I came to know just how incomparably fortunate I was to have had simply the best education that this country has to offer. That, together with the unique Columbia experience, being an international fellow at what is now called SIPA, having lunch with Averil Harriman and Abba Eban, the Israeli foreign minister, who later became a co-author. I worked with him as a co-author, producing plays and running the Bakersfield scoreboard, both of which imparted lessons in dealing with life's inevitable disappointments. Today, as ambassador at a time of great upheaval and change in the Middle East, I have constant recourse to use the skills, the knowledge, and the worldview I received at Columbia. I am deeply honored to be the recipient of this year's John Jay Award, deeply honored to have my son, Yoav, who is just now graduating from Columbia with a BA, Yoav, in East Asian Studies. Privileged to have my parents here, Mom, Dad, who among the many gifts they gave me made my Columbia education possible. And delighted as always to have my wife Sally here, who makes everything possible. Thank you all for this extraordinary honor. Good night.
Good evening. I'm Yale Furgang, Columbia College, class of '87, and a co-chair for tonight's dinner. Let me add congratulations to the 5 honorees. Really an extraordinary accomplishment. As is tradition, we'll close the program with one of Columbia's premier vocal groups. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Cliffhangers.
Shore.